So my name is Colin with Cactus to Cloud Institute, and I'll be one of the instructor team for the Desert Sands Sky Islands course. And I'm just going to jump right into a few slides that we have to share about the course and some of the course requirements and what to expect, that kind of thing. The main thing the main reason we host these sessions is that so you folks have the opportunity to ask questions in person. So as we go, feel free to type questions into the chat, and then we'll give you the opportunity to unmute and raise hand, that kind of thing at the end as well. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see my screen. And as I said, this is the California Naturalist Desert Sands and Sky Islands 2026 course, hosted by Cactus to Cloud Institute. Now, if you haven't heard of California Naturalist before, it's a certification course that is kind of designed and coordinated through the University of California Department of Agricultural and Natural Resources. And they have a department within that department called environmental stewards. And they offer basically, or they provide this curriculum called California Naturalist, as well as another curriculum called Climate Stewards, which we're also going to be offering in the fall. So you'll hear us talk about like University of California, UCANR, California Naturalists, Climate Stewards, Environmental Stewards. These are all kind of in the same language, and sometimes they can be a little bit confusing because there's all these different terms, and sometimes we'll use acronyms and stuff like that, just so everybody's kind of aware of um, the relationship. A little bit on the kind of the history of the course. This will be I think, eighth or ninth time that this course is taught in the Coachella Valley. And I've personally been involved in all of those since the beginning, but it'll be the first time that Cactus to Cloud is offering the course sort of in partnership with UCANR, um, which is hopefully not going to be much of a change at all. Or if there is a change, it's going to be good. Um, but the class has been administered through UCR Palm Desert Center for the last seven, whatever all the classes before this one. And they decided this year that they weren't able to do it, and going forward, they're not able to do it. And so we are happy to take on the role of doing it because we feel it's a really important course. In fact, Cactus Cloud kind of started as a project of the environmental stewards class, and we feel it's been very successful. This was the first, this picture here is the first graduating class, and you can see me in the background, and there's Cindy, too. There's Dr. Barrows, who you'll meet in a minute. And I think, this was at the graduation. You can just see how happy everybody is to have been through a couple of months of California naturalist education, and hopefully you'll all be there too soon. A little bit about Cactus to Cloud Institute. As I mentioned, we kind of started almost as a California naturalist, or actually as a climate stewards project. And we've been, as I said, I think pretty successful, relatively new, but we're coming up on our fifth year anniversary actually. And I want to acknowledge some of our kind of partners and coalitions that allow us to do our work. If you've heard about Cactus to Cloud Institute before, it's probably either through California Naturalist or through because of the Chuckwalla National Monument. And we've been a big part in making sure the monument got established and then stays established now that it's here. In fact, next week is the 1 year anniversary and of the monument, and we'll be sharing some events there. We're also part of the Friends Grassroots Network. We're part of the 30 by 30 Power and Nature Coalition, a SciStarter affiliate, and of course, we have this partnership with University of California. I'm a little bit out of order here. I guess I already kind of talked about this, but we've got again UC A&R and then UC Environmental Stewards, and then California Naturalist and Climate Stewards is kind of the um, organizational chart there. And then Cactus Cloud Institute are offering the desert version, Desert Sands and Sky Islands of California Naturalist. And I believe, okay, so how the class is going to work is you mostly, if you're responding to emails, they'll probably be coming from me. Um, and if you've applied already or gotten the application, you're already probably familiar with that. I've been sending a bunch of emails, reminding people about the application process and giving little updates and things like that. And that's going to continue. I'm technically the lead instructor for the course, which basically just means that that's the stuff that I'm going to be doing. Um, Once the class begins and we actually get into the fun stuff, probably the person who's going to be talking the most is Dr. Cameron Barrows, who kind of started the Desert Sands and Sky Islands course originally and is related to me. Uh, and he'll be kind of leading a lot of the instruction, and coming up with the curriculum and that kind of thing. And I'm going to turn the presentation over to him at this point so that he can talk a little bit more about class and requirements and all again, the fun parts of the class, hopefully.
So
There we go.
I'm here. For some reason, I'm not able to get my image to show up there. So sorry about the black screen. That's
I
not
can
on purpose.
I can probably fix that.
Real reason for this particular meeting today is for all you to ask questions that you might have about the class. But we we've done this. This will be the ninth time that we've offered the class, and we've filled it every single time. It's been a very, very popular class. Um, the people that take it are very, they vary from all sizes and ages and colors and everything else. It's a fun class. Um, One of the questions people often have or have hesitations, especially if you haven't been in school for a while. Are there going to be tests? The answer is no. Are there going to be reading assignments? A few, but not many. It's mostly an opportunity for you to come out and enjoy the California deserts, both the Mojave Desert and the Colorado Desert, and to learn about it as much as possible. There, as you'll see in the writing here, the desert ecoregions of California constitute about a third of the state, and they are largely ignored by most everybody as being this empty space with nothing out here, and it's a place where you can run your motorcycles and dune buggies and build um, solar plants and mine for minerals and do all sorts of things that otherwise detract from both the beauty and the amazing biodiversity. One of the issues that I really stress in the class is that most people, certainly people who don't know the desert at all, consider the deserts to be mostly um, devoid of life compared to certain areas like forests and grasslands and wetlands and so forth. And it turns out that's completely untrue. There's of the one-third land area that of California, um, we have more shrubs, more flowering plants, more pollinating insects, more reptiles, more beetles than any other place in California. And then you look at that at a more continental scale, and there, California is by far the most biodiverse state of all of the 50 states of the United States. In fact, short of Hawaii, if you added up all the biodiversity in the other 49 states or 48 states, California totals more, and biodiversity meaning the number of species that occur here. And so the deserts are actually a really important part of that biodiversity. And so what I'm hoping the students who take the class will understand that biodiversity and get a chance to see it and experience and hold it in your hands in some cases, take photographs and so forth. So the class is going to be a mixture of some lectures, a lot of field trips. We're going to get out and see the desert in many different ways. We're going to be able to go areas that you otherwise wouldn't have access to because we have access and can get into. Them's like the last remaining sand dunes in the Coachella Valley. There used to be 100 square miles. Now there's only a handful of square miles left, and we're going to get a chance to go into an area that is off limits to the public to see the biodiversity of those remaining sand dunes there. We're going to be able to go into some protected areas where you can hike into, but you can't drive into, but we're going to be able to drive much further into so we can get more access where there's orchids growing in the middle of a palm oasis, and there's wetlands and ducks and geese and all sorts of things. We're going to be going up into the Mojave Desert for two or three of the field trips. We'll go down by the Salton Sea for at least one of the field trips. We're going to learn about why this area is so biodiverse, and that has to do with both geology and sort of the um, history of how climates have changed over time. And we're going to learn about what the current climate change situation might portend in terms of the California deserts and biodiversity overall. So there's a lot of things that you'll learn. The only real assignment is that you attend the class. People, sometimes life happens and you can't show up for one class, but if you miss more than one class, you really start putting yourself in a hole. And there's ways of doing some makeup stuff, but it's really um, the you're hopefully when you sign up, you're going to commit as much as possible to be there every um, Saturday morning from January 31st through the middle of April. So attendance is the most important thing. There will be something that we call a stewardship project or a capstone project. And you can do that by yourself, or you can do it in a group of any number of people of your classmates. And it's a project for your own that you select yourself. The idea is to come up with some way of how you could educate both your classmates but other people about California's biodiversity and the desert biodiversity. So Colin's showing you the itinerary of where we're going to be and what the class schedule is going to be like. So the first time we're going to do introductions, we're going to talk, hopefully have a Kauai member, tribal member there. If not, we've got some recorded messages from the other Kauai's, talk about the history of natural history and who who were the leaders in the past and why science is doing what it's doing right now. The next one is the sand dunes that I mentioned before. Then we're going to talk about geology and really create the foundation for what the desert is today and why the biodiversity is where it is. Another field trip up into the Chuckwalla National Monument and Painted Canyon, which is one we haven't done in the past, but because it's a brand new national monument and the geology there is fabulous. And so everything we talk about in the geology lecture will then make sense, or hopefully make sense when we get out into the Painted Canyon area. We're going to have a lecture on desert plants and then birds. Go down to the Dos Palmas Conservation Area in Salton Sea. Then one of my favorite groups, the reptiles. We're going to talk about reptiles, then mammals and insects. I'll do the reptiles on mammals, and then we'll have a guest lecturer, a specialist in desert insects. then 3 field trips going up Highway 74 as a transect, then 2 field trips into the Joshua Tree area. And then you have, we'll see how it goes, but it usually takes 2 different class sessions to get everybody's stewardship project done. Um, you- it, I always tell the students just plan on about 5 or 10 minutes, and everybody goes, "Oh, I could never do anything for 5 or 10 minutes," and then they get up there, and 30 or 40 minutes later, they're still talking. So that's why we have the second day there because if needed, we'll have the the rest of you do your presentations, and then graduation. So it's a full class there in terms of content, but again, no tests, no grades. It's basically attendance and doing the stewardship project. There's a couple of other things. We're going to provide you with a field notebook and talk about how important it is to keep a field book and field notebooks. And so you'll get that, and then we will give you a handbook that the California Naturalist program offers. California Naturalist is a class that is taught throughout California. And in any given year, there's probably 20 or 30 classes being taught. But this is the only one that focuses on our California deserts. There is um, You could do another class up in Monterey on tide pools. You can do one up in the Sierra Nevada on sequoias and the forests up there. You can go up into the redwood forest, and there's another one. There's lots of different classes that you could take and get additional certificates if you'd like. But the only one that focuses on the desert is this one right now. So, the other part of it is there's or an app that we like to use called iNaturalist, and you'll be required to use that and contribute to it. It's essentially social media for naturalists, and it's a way of cataloging and sharing the things that you see when you're out in the field and getting your um, colleagues, which are other naturalists, to help you identify things. So you might see a beetle and you say, I have no idea what this is. Take a photograph of it, you submit it to iNaturalist, and there'll be a beetle expert that'll tell you exactly what that is. Or there might be a flower that you don't know what it is, and there'll be a flower expert to tell you what it is, or a butterfly, or a bird, or a lizard, or any snake, whatever it might be. And so it's this really fun thing that we want you to participate in. And there was a article, I forget where I saw the article, and Colin or Cindy, you probably know, but there was, like I said, social media is kind of weird these days because there's a lot of people that are sort of trolls, and they um, try to demean other folks. And the article said this is the only social media that this person had ever encountered where everybody's supportive and everybody wants to help you. There's no shaming. There's no, oh, how could you not know what that was? It's here, that's a great observation, and this is what it is. And so it's a real fun group, and I think if you haven't participated in iNaturalist, you might become addicted to it because it's a lot of fun. So, I've covered a lot of things here. I would like to hear from you in terms of questions you might have. Between Colin and Cindy and myself, we can probably answer most of your questions, if not all of them. So, I don't know, Cindy, are you checking the chat to see if there's questions? Otherwise,
Uh,
people, you
yeah,
can
no
raise.
questions in the chat yet, but I would say if anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. Or I believe people could unmute themselves as well, right, Colin? Or
Yeah,
oh,
they
I
should
see us.
be able to
All right.
unmute themselves
Yeah, so first
now.
question that I'm seeing here is from Mark, and it says, will the class schedule be sent out?
Well,
Uh,
we'll provide it on the first day of class, but we can certainly send it out as well.
yeah, so I was just going to follow up with a little bit of kind of like what comes next now, because I know I'm just looking at the names in the group and I can see a bunch of folks who have applied already, some folks who are on the interest list, which is great. I would highly recommend that if you are interested in the class at all, that you apply right now because we're actually um, either very close to or already past what our sort of target class size for the group is going to be, which is 25 people. Now, even if we're already have 25 people who have applied, sometimes people drop out and that kind of thing. So that's why it's important to apply right now because that's going to put you first in line on the waiting list. Um, and we usually will go, a few, at least a few names into the waiting list before we actually finalize the course itself. But now that we've had this is the second of the info sessions that we're going to hold. Now that we've held it, we're going to review the applications um, and start to make decisions about everybody in there. And, there's not um, there's not real serious requirements or anything like that. I mean, it's a college level course, but you don't have to have prerequisites or anything like that. When you do the application, there's no kind of filters to try and get everybody out. We just want to kind of get a feel for everybody. And then there are some kind of things that we look out for in the applications where we might follow up with you um, and make sure that it's going to work with your schedule basically, and it'll work with your circumstances, or whether next year might be the best year or something like that to take the class. I will share a recording of this presentation. So you'll have the dates for the class in that, and then you'll also find the dates for the class in the application itself, to the original question about whether the dates would be shared. And then yeah, once you start the class, you'll get a syllabus and a schedule. You'll be getting calendar invites with the schedule to make sure you have it all out there. But basically it's every Saturday. Um, from January 31st through mid-April. We do have one break week, sort of. Easter weekend. We're not going to have a required class, but there will be a optional field trip that weekend, and we'll be doing a trip that way. So, if to go back to the schedule a little bit, the requirement for graduation for certification is 40 hours of educational time, and we offer 44 hours of educational time through the course. So what that means is that you can miss one class and still be eligible for certification without having to do anything, right? And so but most people would, as Dr. Barrow said, it's a pretty dense, not dense, it's pretty packed in terms of the course. We're getting a lot in. Um, and most people probably want to attend all of the classes. And, that's kind of the plan is to attend all of the classes, but then life happens. You might need to make something up. And so we offer a couple of opportunities to do makeups. Um, Hopefully that answers the question thoroughly. I see
Okay.
there's some
And
more
there's
questions.
another question on here. It says, from Dustin, can we use an existing iNaturalist account, or does that need to be an account specifically for this course?
Yeah, definitely. If you have an existing iNaturalist account, please use the one you already have. Don't make another one. Um, the the requirement is to have 10 observations during the period of the course. So the way the project work, there'll be a project that everybody will get set up on once you're in the class, and the project will only count observations that take place during the class. So you're gonna have to make, even if you've already made 10, you'll have to make 10 more, but that's no big deal. I always tell people if you're at all worried about that, the iNaturalist requirement, we can do all 10 observations on the first day of class in the parking lot of the um, university, and then you'll be done and you don't have to worry about it anymore. But the hope is, and we'll get into this, but the hope is that you'll do a lot more than that.
Okay, and we have another question in here from Jay Augie. In addition to the Cal Naturalist certification, are there other certifications that folks can receive through the course? So
Um,
for
Go
the
ahead.
Cal Naturalist California Naturalist course that's being offered for this, it would only be the California Naturalist course. In the fall, we do plan to offer another course which would provide you with another certification, but as it relates to the desert sands and sky islands, it would be the California Naturalist course certification.
Yeah, and I'll add to that also that it's not necessarily a certification, but by taking the course, once you graduate, you'll be eligible for college credit. You know, it's a college course. Uh, um, we're accredited, I guess. So when you take the course, you'll be eligible for some general education units through UC Davis. If that's something that's interesting to you, make sure to pay attention when we bring that up because it doesn't happen automatically. There's a process you have to go through, and you'll have to pay UC Davis Extension a few bucks to actually get the units. But you are eligible for them, and it's not hard to do. You just fill out a little form, and like I said, pay a few bucks.
Okay, seeing a question here from Jaime. Are there any particular research projects or entities in the Mojave or Colorado deserts that have graduates volunteering for them at the moment?
Well,
So I could go ahead, Ken. Sorry.
there is a research team that is housed at the same place where we will be meeting for lectures. It's a team that I created in when I'm now retired, but Dr. Lynn Sweet is now the lead scientist on the team, and they are out doing field work all the time, doing both surveys for lizards and plants and a lot of things up in the Joshua Tree forest areas. They've got a lot of projects up there. And part of being a certified naturalist, California naturalist, is the hope. It's not a requirement, but certainly a strong hope is that you will continue your education through volunteering for things like that. And so Dr. Sweet's team is always looking for volunteers to help with the research projects that they're doing. We also have an ongoing group of California Naturalist alumni who we go hiking together a couple of times each week, usually Wednesdays and Fridays. And we're doing work on understanding how organisms are responding to climate change. And so we do surveys, usually of lizards, but also sometimes plants and other things, to see whether or not lizards are moving up in elevation or whether they're staying where they are and doing just fine. And so we're trying to answer some of the questions that nobody really has the time or energy to look at because it's sort of a long-term effort. You have to go years and years and years to see whether or not these things are changing. And this is an opportunity that we have to actually contribute to the body of science. So there's two different projects right there, both the California Naturalist Project that I just described, as well as Dr. Lynn Sweet's a lab that's housed there at the Palm Desert campus. And her focus is botany, but she also has on her staff some good herpetologists and a really good entomologist. And so they do a lot of different things. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that kind of point about how the course, I mean the goal of the course is to be certified as a California naturalist and to have fun and have that sort of personal accomplishment kind of that and potentially to help you in your career or to help you be a better um, docent or better volunteer, kind of one of the original goals of the program, for example, would be for a volunteer at a land trust or a friends group to be able to give better, environmental education, to be able to be a better interpreter on the hikes that they lead or in the programs that they're offering. So if that is you, then you're in the right place, right? Or if you're thinking about wanting to go into a career, or you're in maybe like a COD student or something like that, or early in your education and wanting to learn a little bit more about sort of the ways you might specialize, this is also a great place for that. Um, but at least to kind of our sort of organizational goal and personal goal is not just to offer the course, but also to build it into this community of naturalists that continues on, and that's people who are sharing these kinds of resources and opportunities with each other, volunteer opportunities, work opportunities, and all these kinds of things going forward. So I think to be the best version of the class is when you take the class, you're graduating, and then you're being part of this community. And I think especially right now in terms of advocating for public lands, for biodiversity, and for the desert. It's something that we really see the need for. So, I'm hoping that everybody who's here sees that need as well.
Yeah, and I guess I could just add to that, because this would be the ninth year that the course is being offered throughout those numbers of years, there's a couple of different students that have gone on to work in different places. So not sure I don't know that we would be able to answer exactly the projects that they're working on, but there's a number of previous students that are, employees of some of the conservation partners that we have here in the low and the high desert as well, and are even working in other research areas also. Let me see if there's another questions, but if anyone else has any question, please feel free to raise your hand. And as it relates to Dr. Lynn Sweet and her team, I also put in their handle in there in case you want to go and give them a follow and see what the type of stuff that they work. Okay, I see a private message here. It says, how do we pay for the course? So as Colin mentioned, we'll be doing a final review of the applications, and we will be in touch with those of the students that will be moving forward with part of the course, and they'll be receiving an invoice for the course as well. And Colin, I don't know if you want to touch a little bit more on that as far as like when the payment would be due or anything like that, but I believe that's also specified in the application as well.
Yeah, in the application, there's a little bit. We do have a refund policy, which I'll just talk a little bit about the sort of the fee for the course, which is $350. Um, and we work really hard to make sure that that fee is as low as we can make it. It's actually less than it was last year and the year before, and even a few years back. So one of the things that we did when we started to take over the course from UCR Palm Desert Center is really prioritize that. We want it to be more accessible to people, and one of the ways we did that is by committing to a lower price. So that's good news so far. Um, we also do offer scholarships, and there's a little request form that you'll fill out. When you do the application, there'll be like a checkbox that say, "Yes, I'm interested in scholarships." Um, Check that box, and you'll get another email from me saying, fill out this extra form, and that gives us some more information about your situation and need and stuff like that. Um, as far as the actual sort of like mechanics of it, like I said, we'll be, or like Sandy said, we'll be doing the final review of applications and start actually accepting people, and then that'll come with an invoice with a link to complete payment by credit or debit. We do have some more flexible options too. You can mail us a check, you can do Venmo. We're pretty flexible on that. Um, but hopefully that kind of answers the question. If you're have applied already, you shouldn't be worried that you haven't gotten a link or anything like that. You should be seeing it early next week if we accept everybody.
Okay, I don't see any more messages, but I know the last message was sent to me privately, so I don't know if any other if Colin or Kim, if you received a private message, or if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself.
While
And I will
folks
also go
just
ahead.
kind of,
Oh,
I'll just say while folks kind of think about any additional questions they might have, if you have any questions you might want to ask privately or whatever, that's fine too. You can email us. I think if you're here, you should have at least Cindy and my email. Um, and as well, I'll just kind of reiterate my comment earlier about if you're interested in the course and you haven't applied, and so sometimes folks will have questions about whether we receive their application. So if you applied as of yesterday, you should have gotten an email from me confirming that you were applied. So if you think you applied and you didn't get an email, see me right away. And if you are interested in applying and haven't applied, apply like right as soon as we're done with the meeting right now. Because as I said, we're if not at our size limit for the class for this year, we're very close. So you want to make sure that you're in there as soon as possible. Uh, I saw Leslie turn on her camera. I wasn't sure if that might be a question or just a misclick.
Not a question, just trying to see if I can see everybody.
Okay.
I am not techie.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, I see you.
and I did go ahead and put the link again in the chat for the application because we have received more applications that unfortunately we could take for the course. So we haven't made a final decision. So if anyone still wants to submit an application, we definitely welcome that. And if anyone has any questions that they would rather ask in private, you could also do that as well. I'll go ahead and put in the chat the email for the best email to do that, or you could reach either Colin or myself, and that would be at education@cactusclouds.org. And feel free to reach out and we will get back to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Look forward to seeing everybody in class, hopefully.
Yeah, and I also last reminder, there's also a link in the chat as well for the upcoming hike. So feel free to check that out if you're available and interested. Other than that, I don't see any other questions in the chat, Colin.
I don't.
Thanks again, everyone. Thank you for joining and thank you for your interest in the course. We will be in
Everyone.
touch.